Shabbat Shalom. We're back here in the chapel, nice and cozy, keeping ourselves cool as we welcome Shabbat with a little warmth from inside. Shabbat Shalom. God, we offer you thanks for this Shabbat which unites us not in space but in faith and in hope. For Shabbat holiness which inspires sacred living. For Shabbat memories glowing even in the darkness. For Shabbat peace born of friendship and love, we offer you thanks and blessing.
ייתן אדוני יברך את עמו אדוני יוסף ועמו ייתן אדוני יברך את עמו
שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ותפארת ולתחילה. לך דודי נקרא כלה, בני לקבלה.
לקראת שבת לכוון אלך, כי היא מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוד מחסה במחשבה תפילה.
לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום העטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני ים סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. That's what you get for clicking one more click than you needed to. You jump the third stanza of Lecha Dodi. It's really nice to be able to welcome all of you into Shabbat. It's particularly nice for us to invite Maxine Schwartz, in memory of her brother, is going to light our Shabbat candles. We're going to invite Maxine to lead us in our candle blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitanu v'tzivanu lecha lifnei shelcha. Blessed art thou, Adonai, our Lord, sovereign of the universe, who hallowed us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of God. Amen.
Thank you, Maxine.
Thank you.
You rise for Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. This is a melody that is very simple to learn, and you've heard it many times, so try to sing along. It says, rolling to dark, rolling to light, night becomes day, day turns to night, and you follow Rabbi every time. Rolling to dark, rolling to light, night becomes day, day turns to night.
Roll into dark, roll into night, night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light, night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light, night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light, night becomes day, day turns to night.
Roll into dark,
Roll into light, night becomes day, day turns
comes day, day turns to night. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'ma'ariv Harabim. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Ba'ed.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levacha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha ve'shinantam levanecha v'dibartam v'shivtecha b'veitecha u'v'lechtecha v'derech u'v'shochbecha u'v'kumecha u'kashartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot beinecha u'chatavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'vishadecha Leman tiskeru vasitem et kol mitzvotai veitem kedoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eret Mitzrayim liot lachem lelohim Ani Adonai Elohechem.
Adonai Elohechem, amen.
In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai, we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then we shall rejoice as Israel did, singing at the shores of the sea.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom תעמידנו שומרנו לחיים.
The people of Israel shall keep the Sabbath, observing the Sabbath in every generation as a covenant for all time. It is a sign forever between me and the people of Israel. For in 6 days the eternal God made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day God ceased from labor and rested. Rise for Tefillah for Amidah. Hours of rest and renewal, open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch.
Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha-Shabbat.
I want to stop for a moment, and I want us to just think about the prayer that is up on the screen, and particularly the word about those who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And I can certainly talk about the idea that this is a prayer that asks God to make sure that people who are hungry in their stomach are taken care of. But there's a verse in this week's Torah portion, a verse I want to talk about now and I'm going to talk about later, give you two different lessons from it. A verse that I think you might know or at least sound familiar. Ki lo al halechem levado yeh ha'adam. Or, if your Hebrew is just a little bit rusty, man or humanity doesn't live by bread alone. Now, we could spend plenty of time talking about the fact that I, as somebody who's gastronomically inclined, would like to be able to say that you bet bread is wonderful, but I like the entire smorgasbord of what is out there for me to eat and certainly to drink. And so humanity we can't live on just one thing alone. But we know that that is not the only way to think about this. In fact, if we were to look at not that verse, but actually look at what comes after that not that verse, but that phrase, what comes after that phrase, I think, is really the true message. Okay? Man doesn't live by bread alone, and then it continues on to say, rather, by everything that emanates from the mouth of God does man live. Okay? If the point is that God's emanations are the source of our lives, why do we use bread as the subject? Right? When bread only becomes edible, right, through the toils of humanity. Right? God can make the wheat to grow, right, but only if we take that wheat, we cut it, we shake it down, we grind it into flour, we add water, eggs, whatever it is, and we make bread. Right? Wouldn't fruit be a better example of God's influence on the world? Right? By fruit alone. Right? There isn't a lot. Fruit can grow on its own. Right? I think that there is, or I've heard, an explanation that bread is used as the subject, right, because it exemplifies the toils of humanity, and that the message is here that even if you toil for bread to eat, right, don't forget that God actually plays a role in this. Okay? That God has toiled, God's self, all right, and that God's goal is not just to sustain us, but to help us live physically and spiritually. Right? That if we had chosen an example like fruit, we would think that we just need to open ourselves up and that God will take care of everything. And Christianity may have that idea, but Judaism doesn't. Judaism says that that we are partners with God. Humanity should not only seek physical nourishment from the work of his hands, but also from the spiritual nourishment from the word of our God. So we're going to come back. We're going to come back to that phrase in a little bit. Just something to think as we are not just physically nourished, but spiritually nourished by Shabbat itself. God, you are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Blessed are you, Adonai, whose presence returns to Zion.
ברוך אתה אדוני המחזיק שכינתו לציון מודים אנחנו לך.
God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us, so filled with beauty, for the richness of earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more, we offer you thanks.
ברוך אתה אדוני הטוב שמך ולך להודות. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים בעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. כי אתה מלך אדום את כל השלום. כי אתה מלך אדום את כל השלום. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם.
Before we take a moment for silent personal prayer, we think about all of our friends and neighbors, members of our community who are in need of God's healing. And sorry, I didn't grab the list, so I hope we will think about all of our congregants and all who you have in your hearts, and offer this blessing for healing of the body and healing of the spirit.
Name before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shema, and renewal of body, and renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Take a moment for silent personal prayer. So I want to come back to our verse from Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 3. Ki lo al halechem levado yeh ha'adam. That humans don't live on bread alone. Rabbi Yisrael Meir HaKohen of Poland, not a name that any of you might know, but you might have heard of him by virtue of his moniker. The name that he was known for is based on the book that he wrote called the Chafetz Chaim. A kind of a unique interpretation. He gives in the book a unique interpretation of this verse. And he points out that the Torah does not say ba lechem, okay, by bread, but rather al halechem, okay, on bread. Okay? You would think, if we look at it in the English, okay, humans don't live on bread. That would be on top of bread. Of course we don't. Okay, the better, more proper English would be, humans don't live by bread alone. So our question is, why? Why does the Torah say al halechem, on bread, and not ba lechem, by bread? And he makes a connection between al halechem, on bread, and the Hebrew expression al manat, for the sake of bread. He says, we don't work, okay, for the sake of eating, nor do we eat for the sake of working. I think the Chafetz Chaim is pointing out that many people lose sight of life's priorities. Sometimes it is their material possessions that are primary in a person's life. Other times it's the intensity and the excitement of their profession or vocation, which takes them away from having time with their family. Working and earning a living are certainly important, okay? But only a means toward the goal of living a meaningful and caring life, connecting deeply to family, to friends, to community, and to the higher spiritual goals of connecting with God. So no one, he says, should confuse work or job or money with life itself. Okay? We don't work, or we don't live on bread. We don't live on bread alone, but rather by bread. Okay? In this case, it would be better by bread, right, as a means for us to figure out what is really important, that living a life beyond just our eating. We're going to continue. We're going to open our ark for Elena. We invite all of you who would like to rise, if not in your chair, from your chair, by your spirit.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גאולה ארצה בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי ארצו, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו ככל עמונה.
I hope you'll beg, I'm going to beg your indulgence for just one more moment as we come to Kaddish. I want to share that over the years, I've spoken a lot about the rabbis who have surrounded my life. And some of those rabbis are my students. And have been my students. Some of them are my friends and colleagues, and I've shared lots about them. And I have shared sometimes in words and sometimes by bringing them right here to Temple Sinai, those rabbis who I consider my teachers. One individual who I've not talked about is an individual who I met 36 years ago when I was a teenager, and in the summer of 1984, I spent the summer at a B'nai B'rith youth organization summer camp for what was, at that point, was almost 8 weeks. It was 8 weeks in a Jewish leadership program. And one of the rabbis there was a rabbi by the name of Shaya Kalimnik. Shaya was an Orthodox rabbi from Rochester, New York. And for most of us who either grew up in Reform or conservative backgrounds and conservative Reform households, meeting an Orthodox rabbi was a bit of an unusual experience. And yet, Shai Kalimnik was the guy who was out there on the baseball field, was right there singing with you, and occasionally telling bad jokes and making all kinds of impressions. Shai Kalimnik taught me what it meant to be a pluralistic Jew. That we could differ greatly in our beliefs and still respect each other. After that summer, I didn't see Reb Shaya for a long time, and then 12 years went by, and I went to just a few days after Yitzhak Rabin was murdered. There was a huge rally at Madison Square Gardens in New York City. And by that point, I was finishing rabbinical school, and I went to this rally, and I looked down about 3 rows, and I said, "Oh my gosh, that's Reb Shaya, that's Shai Kalimnik." And I went up to him, and he not only remembered me, but he remembered that my father was a veterinarian, and not just that my father was a veterinarian, but that my father worked on artificial hearts. And it was a transformative moment that he could remember this individual. Just one of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of teenagers who he taught over years and years at BBYO camp. Rabbi Shai Kalimnik died 2 days ago. His funeral was yesterday. So I say Kaddish tonight along with all of our congregants, particularly Jan Brodke, who we miss tremendously, will miss tremendously, and others. I say Kaddish for my teacher, one of my rabbis, Rabbi Shaya Kalimnik. We, along with them, we remember Jan Brodke, Carol Duchovny, Bernice Glickman, Natalie Rieger, all who've died over the past 30 days. Remember these whose yortzites, the anniversary of their passing, we commemorate this Shabbat. Abe Abrams, Jean Besser, Dr. Marcus T. Block, Sylvia Borg, Catherine Koseter, Meyer Dawn, Ida Dunn, Richard Ricky Ertag, Richard Fishbein, Mary Furman, Saul Gelb, Yechiel Gettelman, Molly Goldsmith, Hyman Goldsmith, Francis Gordon, Molly Greenberg, Ned B. Grossman, Stuart Hertzfeld, Helen Hoder, Dr. Harvey F. Howitt, Jenny Hurwitz, Ladonia Jones, Rose L. Kirshner, Gertrude Kleinbart, Leah Leibman, Malvina Leibovic, Hans Lenkway, Ruth Lowe, Leo Lowenthal, Gertrude Macy, Audrey Marcus, Sandra Marcus, Rose Niedorf, Dr. Ruben Polshuk, Gary A. Poliakoff, Benjamin Pulvermacher, Philip Reeder, Mel Rubin, Harry Sidney Rutstein, Joseph Israel Rutstein, Bertram Schild, Hyman Schenker, Libby Schenker, Barbara Silverman, H. Jack Spiegel, Celia Adams Stessen, Edward Udelson, Murray Wexler, Harold Leighton Winkler. We join together for Kaddish Tom Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yikadash Shemei Rabbah, ve'almad yivrach rutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'vyomechon u'chayei b'chol Beit Yisrael, v'agalau b'zman kari v'imru. Yehei Shemei Rabbah mavarach le'alam umei umaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal Shemei d'kudashah, Le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata, tush birchata v'nechemata, da milan ve'alma v'yimru. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Oseh shalom b'mramav, v'yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. May all of them, and I want to say thank you to Rabbi Rothberg for reminding us that another giant in the rabbinic community, Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz, died this week, and we remember him and the teaching that he gave throughout the world. One of the most prolific and widespread teachers of Torah and certainly Talmud in the modern age. We say Zichronam Livracha, may all of their memories be a blessing. Okay, so we've got just a few announcements. First of all, thank you to all of our sponsors. Bonnie, thank you for sponsoring in memory and doing what all of us are thinking, which is remembering Jan, our congregant Jan Brodke. Thank you, Ron and Shoshana, in memory of Shoshana's parents, Sadell, in memory of Harvey, Eva and Greg and Henry in memory of Eva's mom, and at least something nice, Dan and Barbara Price, in honor of their anniversary. Lots of wonderful years. You have lots of wonderful years ahead of you. We have our final scholars in their residence, not this Sunday. For those of you who were with us on Sunday, my mistake, I announced it incorrect. It's not this Sunday, but the Sunday after. My colleague and my friend, Rabbi Rachel Shabbat Beit Halachmi, who was in the class just before me, and she and I spent a lot of years at HUC working for the Hebrew Union College together. Now she's gone on to do new things, but she is really wonderful and a great teacher and scholar, speaking about how Judaism has changed over history and how that informs us today. Still opportunity to send a little sweetness, a little honey, and always we encourage you to involve yourself in study, Talmud, or Shabbat morning Torah study. We are going to conclude with
very simple. Shabbat Shalom, 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 Shina Malot, Shuv Adonai, Ayinu Kekolim, Ayinu Kekolim, Azimale Sopinu, Ushonenu Rina, Az Yomru Ba'Gohim, Intil Adonai Lasoti Melech Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom.
good choice, Kiana, good choice. You join together for Kiddush and Motzi. Boy,
So much. Look, I don't know if you hear that, but here it's like. I hope you don't. You didn't hear that.
I'm pretty sure that they did. Okay.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו בשבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו זיכרון למעשה בראשית כי יום תחילה למקראי קודש זכר יציאת מצרים כי באנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. חיים.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.